Hey guys, it's Thorn. Happy December. So before I get to the subject of this video, I haven't said this yet in a video, but I've decided to set up a Patreon account. I had done a poll about it a couple of months ago, and it's something I've really been on the fence about, for all kinds of reasons. But I went ahead and did it, and I'm using a sliding scale model, so you get access to the same content whether you sign up for $1 to $10, and that is billed monthly. You can stop whenever you want, and what I'm providing are exclusive videos and also a lot of the writing that just never sees the light of day. Actually, most of the content I produce, videos, text, never ends up anywhere, either because it's not marketable enough, right? I mean, Llewellyn and Pathos and some of the other places where I have housed my writing, I mean, they're looking for particular kinds of content. So for example, like Llewellyn has no interest in my fiction. So when I write fiction, I don't do anything with it. It just sits in a notebook at home. So Patreon is an outlet for that. You know, some of my bits about witches and witchcraft that are less marketable, less accessible, that again just end up in notebooks somewhere. So Patreon is a dumping ground for basically everything that I don't feel like I can post publicly. There's personal stuff. I've got some essays up there right now. Anyway, if you're interested in that sort of content and you want to get on board, I'll put the link below. I'm pretty excited about it. It's having kind of the added effect of creating this smaller internet community where I can actually interact with people too, just because the way YouTube is set up now, and with the amount of views that some of my videos get, I really can't interact with people in the comments, particularly because so many of the comments I get are just trolling. So honestly, I don't read a lot of comments. So it's cool kind of having that space. Anyway, I'm going to shut up about it now. But if you're interested, the link is below. I think it'll be a lot of fun. So anyway, that said, I wanted to talk about kind of life after WitchVox. So many of you are probably either too young or just weren't kind of in the right demographic to use WitchVox. This is the Witch's Voice, witchvox.com. It started in the late 90s, and it's been kind of the premier networking site for witches, Wiccans, and pagans since I first got involved in the craft. And anyway, it's this giant platform that has not been updated since the late 90s, so it's a little bit like time travel. If you've read my book, I talk about using WitchVox. But anyway, it's got pages where individuals can post ads, magical service providers can post advertisements, and then covens can also list, you know, how to get in touch with them, etc. It's also got thousands and thousands and thousands of articles from all over the world. It's a really great site. But anyway, the owners announced recently that it's going to be shut down. And honestly, like, I think we all saw this coming, like nobody's surprised, but it's panic time because I think there's still people who rely on WitchVox. Even now, like I was one of the few people I think who still checked it pretty regularly, like weekly. And when I travel, when I go to new cities or overseas or whatever, I always look at the corresponding WitchVox pages to see kind of who's in the area. Are there shops? Are there things I should check out? Anyway, not having that available is definitely gonna make life a little bit less interesting, I think. And the response that I think people are by and large having is, well, we have Facebook now. But the atmosphere on Facebook is really different. Honestly, I don't like Facebook. I'm not on Facebook except for the author page that I have, which is part of my contract. I have to maintain a social media presence, and that means Facebook, but I don't use it personally. I don't have a personal page, and I don't interact with people on Facebook outside of like kind of the bare minimum of what's required. And one of the reasons I don't is because honestly, like, people are assholes. Facebook, I think, more so than other platforms, and I'll get to that, why I think that is in a second, but more so than other platforms, Facebook just shows us the worst of what people are and can be. And I think the reason Facebook is so discouraging to me, like when I want to feel bad about my religious community, I check out what they're doing on Facebook, right? When I want to feel terrible about, I don't know, like the political opinions of people I know, I look at what they're doing on Facebook. And like, who does that? So I think the reason Facebook is particularly insidious, more so than like YouTube or Twitter, is like our families aren't all on YouTube and Twitter. Like everybody I know is on Facebook just about. So things are even less private. Not that anything we do is private, but you know, I don't have aunts and uncles and cousins watching these videos. My boss isn't going to do a search for me and turn up this YouTube channel unless they were like really trying. But Facebook, there's the assumption that everybody is there, because by and large that's the case. And so everything is just that much more exposed, and the combination of there being no consequences for what you say, coupled with the fact that most people just don't know how to write, which means they can't express their ideas clearly, which means it's easier to be misunderstood and to take things out of context. I think it's just this giant brush fire waiting to happen. So from like a group leader perspective, like with WitchVox shutting down, I know there are lots of seekers groups on Facebook, and you know, all kinds of, like, there's a YouTube pagan Facebook group, and there's all kinds of stuff that are out there. But as a Coven leader, all of the serious inquiries that I've ever gotten from my group have been either through WitchVox or just through knowing people in real life. So I don't know, like, I don't foresee that necessarily shifting. People often ask, like, being part of a more secretive group, because even amongst Gardnerians, like, Foxfire really doesn't advertise. Like, I don't want you, frankly. Like, you have to come find me. With my perspective and as far as running a group goes, I want to know people. I want to know people socially, and I want to know them for a relatively prolonged period of time before I'm willing to share that part of myself with them. So with the exception of one person, everybody in Foxfire is somebody who I have known for years before ever circling with them. And, you know, like, maybe that makes me old-fashioned, but I think it's one of the reasons why we don't have very much drama, and why, like, our group is as healthy as it is. I like to be able to scope people out, and honestly, like, if you can't wait years to, you know, become a member of a particular tradition, then maybe you don't want it badly enough. Like, there are lots of groups that operate under a different model, and that's fine. That works for them. But for me, and a lot of it is because I'm super duper introverted, like super introverted. I don't think that always comes across just because I'm so public and I'm so everywhere on social media. But I'm actually really reserved. And I don't go out of my way to socialize or be involved in particular kinds of communities. And it's not because of disdain or anything like that. It's because I actually just find it really, really exhausting, just physically. And the same goes for interacting with seekers. So I have one person who did come through WitchVox, and almost all of my inquiries come through WitchVox. Every now and then I'll get something through the contact form on my blog. Nothing's ever come through Facebook. Again, largely because I'm not hanging out on seeker groups, but nonetheless, like, I have messaging features on the blog page, so it's not inconceivable, but it just doesn't happen. So anyway, our group will be fine with, I'll miss WitchVox. I have a lot of really fond memories of using it. and reaching out to people. I mean, WitchVox is really it's responsible for meeting Corvus and building that relationship. It's responsible for when I first moved to Charlotte, getting out into the community and making friends. It's responsible for finding the coven that initiated me several years ago. So that's been really valuable. I think people will find alternatives, and I think, you know, some of the old strategies that people had decades ago, those are still functioning. Like, you can still go to occult supply stores and there are still bulletin boards. There's still a shopkeeper who keeps that mental Rolodex of all the groups in the area. And I think just getting out into the community and meeting people, you figure out pretty fast, like, who and where the groups are. And if you keep going and you keep getting to know people, you know, just like 40 years ago, like, that's a way in. So I think those methods are still viable, and they're methods that Foxfire still uses, and I'm sure there are other traditional Wiccan groups out there that do the same thing. So I'll miss WitchVox, but I'm not worried per se. So I think people find their way to what they're looking for regardless of the means. So anyway, I hope you guys are well. Happy December, and I will see you next time.